What if the discomfort you're feeling right now isn't a sign that you've lost your way, but proof that you're exactly where you're meant to be? What if the sense of not fitting anywhere, of feeling out of sync with your life, your work, even your own thoughts, isn't confusion at all, but evidence that you've outgrown your current reality? You're not lost. You're not broken. You're between chapters, and that space, unseen, uneasy, and often unbearable, is the energetic threshold before a quantum leap. Every transformation reaches a moment when nothing seems to make sense anymore. The passions that once fueled you fall silent. Conversations feel hollow. Old ambitions no longer light the same fire. It's as if you're watching your life from the outside, not fully in it but not yet beyond it, and your mind, desperate for control, begins to panic. It wants clarity, progress, proof that something's happening. But what it doesn't realize is that this silence, this unraveling, is progress. This is the dismantling of an old identity. The vibrational web that once held you in place is dissolving. Because the shift begins energetically, your external world hasn't caught up yet, and that's why it feels like limbo. But this isn't a pause. It's a prelude. In quantum physics, there's a principle called superposition. A particle exists in multiple states at once until it's observed, holding all possibilities simultaneously. That's where you are right now. Not failing, not falling, floating between who you were and who you're becoming. This is the energetic in-between. You're being recalibrated, and recalibration often feels like collapse. Not because you're going backward, but because everything misaligned with your new frequency is being stripped away. Most people resist this phase. They mistake it for stagnation, for failure. They fill the silence with noise, trying to fix what isn't broken, trying to revive passions their soul has already released. But you can't create coherence from an outdated vibration. You can't breathe life into a version of yourself your spirit has already outgrown. That discomfort you're feeling, it isn't punishment. It's a signal. You're not meant to make the old reality work again. You're meant to release it. Spiritually, this phase is called the void, the space between death and rebirth, the womb of creation itself. It's where everything is rearranged in darkness before the light returns, and it asks for something rare in our hyperactive world. Stillness, not passivity, but presence. Stillness is not the absence of motion. It's the full awareness of what's being rebuilt beneath the surface. Your role now isn't to act, but to attune. Not to hustle, but to harmonize, because this next chapter isn't about doing more. It's about becoming different. Remember, the quantum field doesn't respond to effort. It responds to frequency, and the version of you who already lives your next reality isn't a fantasy. They exist now in the field, vibrating at a higher state of coherence, waiting for you to align. Your task isn't to create that version. It's to collapse into it. To match its vibration so precisely that the field has no choice but to rearrange your external world accordingly. Think of this like a bow being drawn before release. The tension, the pulling back. It's not regression, it's propulsion. The further back the string is pulled, the greater the force of the arrow. The discomfort is not a detour, it's trajectory. You are not unraveling, you are gathering momentum. But here's the catch. If you fight this phase, you stall your own launch. If you rush to rebuild what's fading, if you try to restabilize the old structure instead of allowing it to collapse, you stay stuck between timelines. The people who leap, really leap, are the ones who surrender to the in-between. They stop asking, how do I fix this, and start asking, what is this making space for? So if right now your life feels quieter than usual, if your emotions are unpredictable, if things are falling away but nothing's arriving to replace them yet, take a breath. You are between chapters, and that's sacred. That's the frequency of becoming. The version of you who will look back on this moment won't say, that was when I fell apart. They'll say, that was when everything changed. There's a peculiar kind of tension that shows up right before a transformation. Not the dramatic chaos you see in movies, but a quiet kind of friction. The kind that lives in the space between who you were and who you're becoming. Suddenly your routines feel pointless. Your conversations leave you hollow. Your work, even the parts you once enjoyed, now feels like it belongs to someone else. And that's not by accident, that's a frequency mismatch. Your soul is accelerating, but parts of your life are still anchored in the old version of you. The result? Dissonance, emotional static, a sense that something's off, even if nothing bad is happening. That's not regression. That's resonance trying to recalibrate. In quantum mechanics, this is known as decoherence. It happens when two systems that were once synchronized, in this case, your inner world and your outer world, fall out of alignment. The frequencies no longer match. The result isn't chaos. It's noise, misfiring energy, emotional fatigue. The people around you might not notice it, but you do. Your nervous system starts rejecting what used to feel safe. Your body says no before your mind catches up. And this is the exact moment most people misinterpret. They think they're falling apart. They think they're going backward. But in truth, they're moving out of alignment with their old timeline, and that's exactly what's supposed to happen. Think of it like trying to run new software on outdated hardware. It doesn't matter how brilliant the program is. If the system hasn't been upgraded, it crashes. And that crash? It's not a failure. It's a signal that an upgrade is required. You're not malfunctioning. You're being updated. And part of that update is letting go of everything that was compatible with the old system. Relationships, patterns, beliefs, even parts of your personality. Not because they were wrong, but because they've served their purpose. They were scaffolding, and scaffolding is meant to come down once the structure stabilizes. But here's where it gets tricky. The human mind is addicted to familiarity. Even when the old version of life no longer fits, the mind wants to fix it. Patch it, rescue it. The same conversations, the same habits, the same identities. But in the quantum field, trying to repair what's crumbling is a form of energetic self-sabotage. Because when you attempt to preserve what your soul is already releasing, you're signaling to the field that you're not ready to match the new frequency. And the field, always coherent, mirrors that back to you, not as punishment, but as precision. This is why so many people stall just inches from their quantum leap. They feel the pressure, they sense the breakdown, and instead of allowing the old frequency to dissolve, they double down on it. More effort, more control, more resistance. But in the quantum, effort doesn't equal progress, and the alignment does. The energy that collapses a timeline isn't hustle, it's coherence. And the most powerful thing you can do in this phase isn't to fix the friction, it's to witness it without attachment. To see it not as a problem, but as proof that something bigger is arriving. So ask yourself, what is falling away in your life right now? Not with drama, but with quiet certainty. What feels like it no longer fits, even if you can't explain why? That's not confusion. That's clarity rearranging itself at the vibrational level before it becomes visible. It's the quantum field organizing around your future. It's the untangling of cords that once held you small. And if you can allow those cords to release without reaching back to retie them, you create space for the new blueprint to anchor. Remember, in the world of quantum jumps, you don't leap by fighting gravity. You leap by matching frequency. And frequency isn't forced, it's felt. So instead of pushing to make sense of what's unraveling, breathe into it. Trust that what's being dismantled is no longer needed, and even more importantly, trust that the version of you who is needed, the one who belongs to the next chapter and is already forming silently within you. There's a stage in every quantum shift that feels almost unbearable, not because of what's happening, but because of what's not. You look around and there's no evidence that things are improving, no sudden breakthroughs, no signs from the universe. Just quiet, stillness, emptiness, and if you're not careful, your mind will start telling stories about that silence. It will whisper that you've made a mistake, that you're stuck, that nothing's working. But what if the silence isn't a void, but a signal? What if what you're calling nothing is actually the most powerful moment in your transformation? In spiritual traditions, this phase is often called the void, the space between death and rebirth. It's the fertile darkness where creation begins. In quantum physics, it's the zero-point field, the foundation of all potential, where particles fluctuate in and out of existence until consciousness chooses one. And this is the exact state you enter right before a quantum jump. You haven't yet collapsed the next version of reality, but the old one has already lost its grip. You're floating, untethered, disoriented, but also, if you allow it, completely open. This is the moment where most people want to give up. Not because things are going wrong, but because they've been trained to equate progress with movement, with results, with feedback. And the absence of those things feels like failure. But in truth, this silence is not failure, and it's recalibration. It's the quantum field scanning your frequency, looking for a coherent signal strong enough to collapse into form. And that signal, it's not created by doing more. It's generated by being different. Let me be clear. The field doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your essence. You can meditate for hours, write affirmations in gold ink, chant mantras under full moons. But if your baseline frequency is fear, doubt, or urgency, that's what the field will echo back. This is why the stillness is so essential. It strips away your performance. It silences your ego. It invites you to stop acting spiritual and actually embody alignment. And that embodiment only happens in presence, in the now, in the quiet surrender of trying to force things to happen and simply allowing them to become. So how do you navigate this phase? You breathe. You listen. You stop scrambling to fill the space, and instead, you honor it. You let the silence be sacred because within it your nervous system is rewiring. Your brain's predictive models are dissolving. Your body is adjusting to a new energetic baseline. And all of that takes space. You can't rush a nervous system into coherence. You can only create the conditions for it to stabilize. And that happens through trust, through surrender, through stillness. Think of it like this. The caterpillar doesn't become a butterfly through effort. It literally dissolves inside the cocoon. Its identity melts down into formless potential before it restructures into flight. If you were to cut open the cocoon mid-process, looking for signs of progress, you wouldn't find wings, you'd find chaos. But that chaos is not disorder. It's the precise alchemy required for transformation. The same is true for you. You're not stuck. You're not failing. You're in metamorphosis, and yes, it's scary, because stillness strips away all distraction. It confronts you with your own essence, and that's exactly the point. In the quantum paradigm, what you become internally always precedes what you receive externally. The leap doesn't happen when circumstances change. It happens when you do. So if you're in the void right now, congratulations. You're closer than you think. The silence means the old is gone. The stillness means the new is forming. And the emptiness? That's just space clearing for the frequency of your next timeline. Just before your next chapter becomes real, you'll feel something strange. The past will resurface. Not to punish you, but to ask one simple question. Are you sure you're done with this version of you? It won't come through a voice or a sign. It'll come through experiences. You'll feel it in an old trigger reactivating, in an old fear rising up like it never left, in a familiar pattern knocking one last time, inviting you back into the comfort of your former self. And in that moment, you have a choice, not just of action, but of vibration. This is not failure. It's not a spiritual regression. It's the final friction between timelines. Your soul is aligning with a higher frequency, but your nervous system still remembers how to operate in the old one. That tension is not a mistake. It's the most sacred test of all. But don't misunderstand the word test. This isn't the universe deciding if you're worthy. This is your own field checking for coherence. It's your subconscious saying, before we collapse into the new, let's make sure the old doesn't still have a claim on you. And this test won't feel like a challenge, and it'll feel familiar, which is more dangerous. Because familiarity feels safe even when it's misaligned. You might find yourself in a conversation that reawakens old insecurities. You might notice yourself trying to fix something that's not broken, or convincing yourself to stay where you no longer belong. It won't feel dramatic. It'll feel logical, reasonable, justified. But deep inside something will feel off, because it is. In the quantum model, this is the final superposition. The moment where two realities overlap for the last time before one collapses. Until you make a choice, both timelines exist, the one where you respond from the past and the one where you choose from alignment. And the field doesn't reward effort, it mirrors embodiment. So the moment you act as the version of you who already lives in your new reality, even before the circumstances confirm it, you collapse that timeline into existence. Collapse that timeline into existence. This is what so many people miss. They think the discomfort means they're going backward. But in truth, the discomfort means they're on the threshold. The breakdown is the breakthrough, not in hindsight but in real time. The test isn't to overcome the old. It's to not reenact it. To remain in vibrational integrity, when it would be so easy to slip back into habit. That's the choice point. Not loud, not dramatic, but deeply powerful. Spiritually, this is less of a test and more of a crossing, a quiet moment when you stand between identities. And your task is not to explain yourself, justify yourself, or prove yourself. Your task is to be the new self when it's not yet convenient, popular, or applauded. That's coherence. That's mastery. That's what stabilizes the jump. So, if right now you're experiencing friction, not chaos, but subtle invitations to regress, pause, breathe. Ask yourself not what's right or wrong, but what feels like truth in your body. Does this version of you belong in the new chapter, or is it an echo of who you used to be? Engagement moment. If you're living this moment, this space between who you were and who you're becoming, speak it into the field by commenting, "I trust the in-between chapter." Let that phrase anchor you, not just in the comments, but in your consciousness. Because sometimes, one sentence spoken with presence carries enough frequency to change everything. Here's the part no one tells you. The quantum jump you've been waiting for won't feel like a jump at all. There won't be fireworks, no dramatic music, no clear moment where the clouds part and the universe applauds. In fact, the shift may arrive so quietly that your mind almost misses it. One morning you wake up and realize you're not triggered by that thing anymore. That person who once activated all your wounds, they feel neutral. That anxiety you've carried for years, it's just not there. The problem you used to obsess over doesn't bother you anymore. Not because it's solved, but because you're not the same person who was entangled in it. That's how you know the leap has occurred. Not because the world changed overnight, but because you did. The version of you who needed external validation to feel worthy has gone quiet. The identity that needed constant motion to feel like progress has dissolved. You're not chasing anymore. You're not proving anymore. You're just here, grounded, present. Living from a frequency that used to be a dream and is now your normal. In quantum terms, this is called collapse. The field no longer holds multiple potentials for you. Your coherence has locked in a singular frequency, and everything else has dropped away. The options that once seemed endless no longer call to you. Not because you don't care, but because you know. And knowing doesn't shout, it whispers. From a neuroscience perspective, this is what's known as integration. Your brain has stopped firing the old patterns. The pathways of fear, scarcity, and self-doubt have weakened. Not because you forced them to disappear, but because you stopped feeding them. You've embodied a new identity long enough that it's now automatic. You don't have to try to think differently. You just do. You don't have to remind yourself that you're safe. Your nervous system already feels it. This is not inspiration, it's infrastructure. But here's the paradox. Because this arrival feels so natural, so quiet your mind may question it. Was that it? It might ask. Isn't something else supposed to happen? That's the old programming. Looking for struggle, for proof, for pain. But in the quantum, true change doesn't require drama. It only requires resonance. And when resonance is achieved, there is nothing left to seek. The signal is stable. The jump is done. Spiritually, this is the shift from seeker to signal, from longing to embodiment. You no longer look for signs because you are the sign. You're not reading the field anymore, you're writing it. Life starts responding to you in strange, beautiful ways. A conversation flows where it used to stall. An opportunity arrives without the grind. Synchronicities appear not as rare miracles, but as daily confirmations that your field is coherent. And when things do challenge you, you respond with a kind of internal authority that surprises even you, because the old self would have spiraled. But the current you just breathes. And this is where many people unknowingly sabotage themselves. The quietness of the shift makes them doubt it happened at all. They poke at it, test it, go looking for drama, because they think transformation must be loud. But the most permanent changes are the subtle ones, the ones that rewrite who you are so deeply that you forget who you used to be. That's how you know it's real, when you're not acting as if anymore, because this is who you are. So if you've been wondering whether your quantum leap has happened, stop asking. Look around, feel within. Are you calmer, clearer, less reactive? Do you feel like something is missing, but in the best way possible? That's not emptiness, that's space. That's the new you, unburdened. And the more you live from that space, the more the field will conspire to match you, not because you're pushing, but because you're finally aligned. You don't need more evidence. You don't need another sign. If you've felt the quiet dissolving of your past identity, the emotional waves that made no logical sense, the strange stillness that blanketed your once chaotic thoughts, then you're already there, not arriving, not approaching. There. The quantum jump doesn't scream. It doesn't notify you with flashing lights. It just becomes you. And by the time you notice it, you're already living differently, thinking differently, breathing differently. Not because you decided to, but because the old ways simply lost their grip. And yet, in this new space, there's a deeper responsibility. Not to hustle, not to strive, but to hold, to stabilize, to make this new frequency your baseline, your home, your new normal, because your transformation isn't something to revisit, it's something to live from. And that's not about intensity, it's about integrity, coherence, consistency. The field doesn't reward temporary highs or bursts of spiritual effort. What if alignment wasn't about constant effort, but about steady resonance? The quantum field doesn't respond to bursts of inspiration. It responds to sustained frequency, emotional steadiness, and identity anchored not in future projections, but in present embodiment. This is where so many seekers stumble. They experience the leap, even glimpse their new reality, but they don't stabilize it. Doubt slips back in. They start searching for signs, testing the field instead of trusting it. And slowly, the old patterns begin to reappear. Not because they're stronger, but because coherence wasn't maintained. Think of your new timeline as a new gravitational center. The more you return to it, the more natural it becomes. At first it takes awareness. Then it becomes your atmosphere. Eventually it becomes your identity. Not a performance, but an effortless broadcast of who you are. But every new reality needs structure to hold it. It requires clarity, coherence, and emotional grounding. That's exactly why I created something for you. Because understanding the shift is easy. Living it day after day while the outer world still looks unchanged is where the real work begins. The mind slips. The nervous system wobbles. Old signals resurface. That's not failure. It's an invitation to deepen your embodiment. If you're ready to stop visiting your new timeline and start living there fully, I want to invite you to explore a deeper path. In the pinned comment, you'll find a link to my ebook, Awaken Your Quantum Power. It's not another motivational read. It's a grounded, practical framework rooted in quantum science and spiritual truth. Inside, you'll discover the 7 principles for maintaining a coherent frequency. How to reprogram emotional patterns stored in your nervous system. How to move from fear to alignment, from force to flow. How to hold your shift, even when life still looks the same. This guide was created for this exact phase, the in-between where you've already jumped energetically but haven't yet fully locked it in physically. If that's where you are, this is your integration map. No more chasing signs, no more spiritual noise, just structure, clarity, frequency, and stability. The quantum field isn't a mystery to solve. It's a relationship to master. And you're already doing it. Now it's time to deepen it, to live from it, to trust what's already unfolding. If this message resonated, if you felt seen, mirrored, remembered, check the pinned comment. Take what's calling you. Not because you need it to be whole, but because you're ready to embody what you already are. The shift didn't start here and it doesn't end here. This is just the beginning.